everyone. Welcome to our cervical chat, the importance of self-advocacy. I'm Aisha McClellan, the cervical cancer program coordinator at SHARE. Please share in the comments where you'll be joining us from today. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about SHARE. SHARE is a national nonprofit that supports, educates, and empowers anyone who has been diagnosed with breast or gynecologic cancers, and provides outreach to the general public about signs and symptoms, because no one should have to face breast, ovarian, uterine, cervical, or metastatic breast cancer alone. For more information about upcoming webinars and support groups and our helplines, please visit our website at sharecancersupport.org. Now I'd like to hand it over to today's guest, TrevisMichelle, who will introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm just so excited. I see we have Montreal in the house, my good friend Anisha, and, story time with Jax. I always like saying people's names. My grandparents taught me that people like to be acknowledged. So Rising Men Alliance, I see you. Queen Femi, how are you, Dr. Femi? Jasmine Curry, I see you. Thank you so much. And everyone else who's coming in and on the replays, thank you for taking the time out today to join us as we discuss the importance and the journey that we go through with cervical cancer. So I'm TrevisMichelle, international best-selling author. I am a woman empowerment speaker. I am the divorce strategist. But most importantly, you know what? I am so happy and honored to be a cervical cancer conqueror. That's right. I am a conqueror. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Amazing. And I'm Aisha McClellan. Like I said, I'm the cervical cancer program coordinator at SHARE, and I'm also a metastatic cervical cancer survivor. I'm on my, almost my sixth year in remission. So I am grateful to be here and grateful to be here with you. So we have a bit. So we're just going to talk a little bit about maybe a little bit about our journey, how we got here into self-advocacy, and there's several questions that we have regarding self-advocacy. And so TrevisMichelle and I will go back and forth and answer these questions. And yeah, please chime in if you have any questions or want to share anything with us. Yeah, so anyway, would you like to start us off?
Okay, well, another thing I like to do is please share this out. This information is so important. So share it out to your platforms as well so people can join in, because that's what I was trying to do at the same time, trying to get on here.
Oh, right? For sure.
Yeah, so my journey is that as a registered nurse, which is my silent investor, right? That's what I do as a profession. Going from a registered nurse to a patient, all of these years taking care of other women, men, children with cancer, without cancer, from ER all the way up to ICU, cardiothoracic. And then one day, it was a culmination of things that I ended up going to the doctor. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't ever think it would be cervical cancer. But I thought, because I ride a bike in New York City, 14 miles, 3 to 4 times a week to work. Yes, don't say anything. Look, I didn't want to be on the train with y'all. That's why. So I had some bleeding, and I was like, I better stand up when I hit these potholes in the street. That's literally what I said. But come to find out, when I went to the doctor, by the time I got there, I could barely sit. And I was told I had cervical cancer, stage 3B, 3C, and that it was curable. Now, see, everybody of y'all, I know y'all heard death, and you heard cancer and clutch your pearls and all of that. Whereas for me, I heard the curable part. I knew that I have a mission to speak. That's what I do. I like to support. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this if I'm dead, God, right? So what are we going to do about it? And that started me on my journey. And so coming up on my cancerversary of being diagnosed in November of 2021. And let me tell you, I always have to give credit to Columbia Presbyterian, New York, because that is the bomb diggity. When I tell you I had one of the best teams. I won't say the only, because other people have good teams as well. I'm all right. But I had one of the best teams. And Dr. Gockley is my oncologist. She's no longer there. She's now over, I think, Mass General, just in case y'all in Boston, you know it's a good person. And she says, don't worry, we're going to fight this. She says, it's aggressive treatment. I'm a nurse. I know what that means. I got the, okay. I didn't know what it meant. I really didn't. But I know she said it was starting to also go into my lymph nodes. And I didn't hear that. I swear, I don't know where I was, but I didn't hear. All I heard was, are you going to roll over? Or are you going to fight? And what I tell you, within 4 weeks, I was December 1st, I was starting my external radiation. And they were like, by the 3rd week, you're going to feel it. You know what I said? First week, I was like, yeah, I'm driving myself. Only thing was tough was this chemo. So my daughter had to come with me on that day because I was wiped. But otherwise, I drove myself every day. Yes, I did, because I was independent. And that 3rd week, I couldn't get off the couch. I literally came in, walked my dog, and I didn't move for hours. But I did publish my first journal solo. I pressed the publish button. Wow. And that was it. So what people don't realize with cervical cancer, some people have, depending on when they're caught and diagnosed, they can have surgery. Some of us, like myself, I had to have external radiation and then brachytherapy, which means internal radiation. And then I also, in addition to that, chemotherapy and then surgery. So that has been my journey. And now on the rebuilding side, no more evidence of disease. But it's important that you know the side effects from the medication and the treatment is worse than the actual treatment. I'm just going to say it. So that is my journey. So I look great. My eyelashes popping, y'all. You better compliment me on these opulent.
Beautiful. But that was the first thing I noticed. You look
right?
beautiful. I love it.
But the thing
I can't do lashes to save my life.
And these are magnetic, because after, you have something, cancer, you don't want to do glue and all of these other toxins. You're more aware. But, you don't know that sitting here, I'm in pain.
Yeah.
Even though the tumor is gone. You don't know that I have lymphedema in my left ankle going up to my middle of my foot, all the way up to the middle of my calf from the radiation. You don't know that I stutter, except when I'm being interviewed or I speak on stages.
Right.
And you don't know that I have tinnitus, so I don't hear very well from the chemo. You don't know, there's so many things, but people look at you and go, oh my gosh, you look great. But thank you.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that I remember so I had cervical cancer twice. And the first time, I didn't lose my hair. And so nobody knew I was sick. And, that made me just more empathetic in general. Like, I remember one day because I drove myself to and from treatment, I was exhausted and I have to pick up the kids and work and do all these things. And, I noticed that, people can just be kind of mean on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I remember one time I was just driving 5 miles under the speed limit, and this person just comes behind me and they're just like slamming on their horn. And I'm just like, I was just tired. I just had radiation. I honestly just pulled over and threw up on the side of the road about 10 minutes prior, and I was just feeling crappy. And I was just so hurt by the fact that, somebody was so mean and it happened, but, you don't know what anybody else is going through, I mean, so I think about that sometimes, like just even something as simple as riding around in the car, you don't know like why somebody's driving slow, or you don't know what's going on, simple things. But then I would be at work and nobody knew I was sick because I didn't lose my hair. I looked normal. But it's definitely made me more empathetic in general, just thinking about the fact that everybody's going through something. You don't know. You look beautiful. You would never know that you're, hurting, and nobody would know what we've been through just by looking at us. So kudos.
And I think it's important how we show up for ourselves. I don't make light of, the way I'm feeling.
Right.
I acknowledge it, and actually I lean in. When I have to cry, I cry, get it off my chest.
100%.
And then I keep going. So it's
always keep going.
Right. But I am more aware, and 'cause that's where our mental health comes in. And during this process, I became a certified mental health coach and advocate, not to coach, but to bring awareness as because people don't think of cancer as a trauma.
No.
Okay. I didn't think of it as a trauma, even as an RN, I didn't. And my therapist, yes, I have therapists. I have all kind of therapists now because this journey is it's so life altering and changing. And I want to be the best person that I can be. I don't want to go back to TrevisMichelle before. I'm not new, but I'm an improved and improving. So, it's so important that we take care of our mental health. And I had to prune people from my life, those who didn't stay in contact with me, who I was always taking care of them. I was always calling them. I found out who my true friends were.
100%.
That really cared, and I didn't run after them. So once you show me who you are now, look, be you, boo.
Be you.
I'm going to be me.
Exactly.
And I'm going to leave you alone, but you can't come back.
Exactly. Did you notice that when you were diagnosed, there were so many people that kind of jumped in and they were like, they're going to be here and help out. And then, really shortly thereafter, like they weren't around at all.
Right. And some I knew, it seemed as though they stepped away from me. Like I had some kind of, I did have a disease, but I was a piranha. And oh my gosh. Or they just knew I was dying. I was going to be dead. So they were already cutting ties with me. And that hurt so much, but not that bad, because for me, I have my faith is in God. That's my foundation. But prayer is not enough. I know there are going to be some folks talking about what you're talking about, but faith without action is dead. So I had to make sure I surrounded myself, my medical team, that I believed in them and they believed in me, and I trusted them, and they were there every step of the way.
Yeah.
But I have to always give credit to my 3 adult children, Sasha, Akil, and Khalik. Because when I tell you they stepped up, and my youngest son is actually my healthcare proxy. He's my caregiver, because he left Miami to come twice to take care of for 3 months and then for 4 months. And I was thinking, I only 2 weeks. Look, I could barely walk. He literally had to teach me how to walk again. And he cooked for me. Well, I couldn't eat a whole lot, but I wouldn't have eaten anything if it wasn't for him. He took me to the doctor, because, when you have brachytherapy, and what brachytherapy is, because we're using words and then you don't know what that means. And I want to make sure that I'm being clear. You have an apparatus that is inserted into our vagina, and it's radiation that shoots in, and to kill the tumor, to shrink it, or to at least get rid of it totally. And I was fortunate in my case, it got rid of it. And then what they saw on my lymph nodes also was eradicated. So after that, and the process, I didn't even realize it, that, I was in the operating room every other day for 2 weeks. Never had a chance to recover from the, fog brain. That's why now the fog brain is so bad. And they told me that. I have a neurologist too, y'all. I'll see her tomorrow. But anyway, because I just, every time it was like, boom, and then you're out. I would go into the hospital at 7:30 in the morning, and my son would pick me up at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Wow. Yeah.
So
it was a long day, and I didn't know what to expect with brachytherapy. I just, when I was diagnosed, I was just like, oh, I have cancer. It was just like, bada bing, I was just like, I wanted to rush through it and stop and think about what anything might be, what this treatment would entail. I was just like, learning as I went. So, when I found out that my cancer metastasized a few months later, I didn't even know what that meant. They said it had spread to my lungs. I was like, oh, I have lung cancer. Like, I didn't know. I was just like, I have this thing and I need to get rid of it immediately. So that's why on the topic of self-advocacy, you have to ask questions. It's really important to, there's so much information coming at you, and it can be really, really hard, to process everything. But, take a notebook, if you don't have anybody to go with you, even if you have somebody to go with you, just take a notebook, write down everything that's happening, questions for each time you have an appointment. It can really be life-saving, honestly.
Right. I was very fortunate that, so when I was diagnosed, of course, you always want to get a second opinion.
For sure.
No matter how much you believe in your care. People may not like to hear this, but you can see I'm a Black woman, just in case you didn't know. And going to the doctor, what I realized was I was dismissed. I thought that I was going to be embraced because it was a very good hospital. I was an RN. Not that I should get special treatment, but it was someplace that a doctor that I just thought so highly of. And so their opinion mattered to me. And I was dismissed. I was not treated well.
Yeah.
And not that they had to be warm and fuzzy, but doctors, you need to be warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
But this person was cold. And so I brought one of my besties with me in person. And then my daughter had just started a new job. And I said, you don't have to come. She'll be on the phone. And one of my best friends was on the phone too. The doctor told me, I don't like the fact that they're not here. I cannot control the narrative. And they must wait until the very end to ask questions. I do not like to be she chastised me for about 3 minutes.
Gosh.
And you can see it's fresh.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
She just didn't know that she was dealing with TrevisMichelle. Because when I said, oh, my team is used to that. I called them anyway. They were on the phone together, and I told them exactly what she said. And she looked at me crazy because she didn't expect me to tell them. So at the end, when I asked my daughter, Sasha, do you have questions? She's like, no. And I was like, oh God, let her get off the phone because she will go off. And then I asked my friend, and I said, Dr. So-and-so, do you have questions? Well, the doctor in front of me realized one of my besties was a doctor. Whole attitude changed. But see, it was too late because you showed me who you were. Exactly. And she was pissed. And the two of them, I was like, okay, they were like, love you. And I hung up on them so fast because I knew how pissed they were. And I was so happy my bestie that was with me, I know she was ready to go off, but she followed my lead.
Yeah.
Then the doctor wanted to spend time talking to me. She took 15 minutes to tell me my whole treatment plan that my team took 90 minutes to tell me.
Wow.
And then kept going over it all the time. So I want everyone to know, if you don't feel comfortable with the doctor, the medical team that you're seeing, it's very, very important that you seek someone else. It's okay. The medical team, they work for you. Yes, they're smart. Yes, they may know their stuff, but we need to have someone who's going to listen to us. And it doesn't matter if it's cervical cancer. You could be going for hypertension. You could be a man. It's so important that your medical team listens to you. And just like Aisha said, you need to bring a notebook.
Yeah.
Have somebody else take notes. Have as many ears in the room as possible.
Absolutely. Whew. All right. Well, we have so many questions, so I guess we'll start trying to get through these. So the first one is, how can I effectively communicate my health concerns to my provider?
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to start, or I'll start, whatever you want to do.
You can start.
Well, like TrevisMichelle and I were saying, effectively communicating your concerns to your healthcare provider is just, one, definitely take note and understand your condition as much as possible. And, be clear, just like TrevisMichelle was saying a few minutes ago, she was dismissed. I was dismissed. It took me 3 times to go to the doctor just to finally have somebody take a look at my cervix and see what was going on. The first time, they just gave me antibiotics and sent me on my way. Second time, they were like, oh, just give the antibiotics time to work. Third time, I was adamant about the fact that like something is wrong and I need somebody to take a look today. And even then, I didn't even really get the answers that I wanted, but had I not been persistent and, you trusted the fact that I know my body better than anybody else, I don't know what would have happened.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's intimidating because what people thought, because I'm a registered nurse, they want to talk to me in terminology that, and I'm like, don't do medical terminology. Don't do nursing terminology. You need to
Right.
dummy this bad boy down. This is my life right now, and I need you to speak very clear, layman's terms,
Right.
and speak slower.
Yeah.
So I know it's not easy. I'm not going to say that it is, but when you have someone else with you, it makes it so much easier, because when you have someone with you who can speak up, because sometimes I literally, especially during treatment, they would say things to me and I would turn and look at my son and then he would translate it. And they spoke English. We both speak English. Everybody speaks English. But my brain had so much going on and it's overwhelming.
Right.
And so know that and give yourself grace. And,
Exactly.
and try to, if you say some people, because there are people that don't have family, right?
Yeah.
So what do?
I'm one of those people.
So what you do is you ask one of the staff, you build a report. It could be the certified nursing assistant, one of the office, and say, hey, would you mind, coming in with me? Ask them. It's okay, because you're not by yourself, because this is a scary journey, no matter who you are and how much you believe in God, how holy you are, whatever how many initials you have behind your name, no matter how much money you have, right? So we have to be realistic.
Well said. Well said. What steps can I take to ensure my decisions align with my personal values?
You can go first.
What steps can I take to ensure my decisions align with my personal values? Well, like I say, just knowing your body and trusting within yourself. And if something doesn't feel right to you, then you go to where you feel right. Like when I was diagnosed, I didn't like the way my doctor handled the situation. He was basically like, this is what it is. This is how it's usually gone in previous cases. And so, I'm sorry, you're probably going to have, as little as 3 months to live, or 24 months at the max. And it was a very, very wide range, but still, a very small range. And that was it, and mind you, when I first started getting treatment, it was stage 2B. So he said, 3 months, you'll be in and out, everything's fine. Really great prognosis. So then when I go back for my follow-up and he's like, oh, your cancer spread, I didn't know what to make of this. And you're just kind of like, oh, this is what's happened. Oops. We were scanning you from the waist down. We didn't see what was going on in your lungs and liver. And, that was it. And so it made me just feel, just really rejected. It made me feel really, I didn't trust the healthcare. I didn't trust him or the healthcare system at that point, because it's like, how have I been under y'all's care for all this time and my cancer's spreading, and you're just like, oops, we should have scanned your whole body. So because that doctor didn't align with me personally, I went out and I found my own doctor. I did a lot of research and tried to, I was trying to find someone who was empathetic and somebody who was just willing to, they didn't need to BS me or blow smoke, but just somebody who was willing to help and not just kind of send me on my way. And so when I got a second opinion, I found a doctor that aligned with what I wanted and wanted to do the best she could to help me.
Okay, no, that's good. When you know, everyone has to, when you hear those words, you have cancer, it's a punch in the throat. And I did say throat. I didn't say throat. I did say it intentionally. It's a punch in the throat. And it's a punch in the gut. So it's important to sit back and evaluate yourself. What is it that you want? Let me tell you, I have folks telling me about don't take chemotherapy. I have people telling me to take chemotherapy. Everybody had an opinion, but I had to sit and have a conversation with myself.
Right.
What steps did I want to take? Because honestly, and I've never shared this, I always said if I got cancer, I'm not doing anything about it. Because of being a registered nurse, I've seen what taken, care of them. I've had to access when they have a port where the medication goes in. I mean,
right.
I was like, nah, I don't know. But when I was diagnosed, I had to sit and have that same conversation with myself again and hear what my doctor said when they said curable. And yes, folks, you can feel any way you want. I'm talking about TrevisMichelle. I had to really sit and have a conversation with God, right?
Yeah.
Faith with action is dead, though. So I still went through the steps.
Right.
And for me, I know that God made a way that my team, they all believed in God. But the second opinion, clearly, I don't know if they believed in them or not, but they were definitely nasty. But my team that I had, and they didn't look like me. One was Caucasian, and my oncologist surgeon, and then my radiation oncologist was Asian. And they said, we're going to be praying for you, and we're praying together. And I was like, trying not to show like, what?
Yeah.
And then that's what we did. And they actually prayed for me.
That's amazing.
So that aligned for me. Now, it may not work that way for everyone. I was blessed that it did, but I knew I was going to be for myself. I already knew I had my prayer warriors out for me, right? So yeah, you do have to you have to know for yourself what you're willing to go through, because people are going to come at you with what their opinion is, but it's your life. You're the one that has to go through it. And it's easy to say, but try your best not to let other people influence what you feel is with you. Just like you said, you went to the doctor, you knew something was wrong, and they kept poo-pooing it away. They do that a lot, especially to women, and even more so to Black and brown women.
100%.
Oh, it's menopause. Oh, it's, part of being a female. Oh, come back in 3. It already took me 3 months to get an appointment, and my tumor was trying to escape into my pelvic area, which then it would have spread throughout my body. And they were like, we don't even know how it didn't. Then it would have been, and 5 or 10 years ago, you and I, we would have been dead.
Exactly. And, and that's, and that's another thing, that the doctor that I had that just kind of sent me on my way, I'm like, listen, I have 3 kids. I'm a single mom. Like, this is not going to work for me. The fact that you don't even want to try, you don't want to, if there's a 14% survival rate, that shows me that 14 out of 100 people have survived this. And I can be one of those people, like, you should treat every patient as if they can beat any statistic. So that's why I was really grateful for the doctor that I found, because she's like, I'm a mom, you're a mom, we want to be here for our babies. And, I'm going to do everything I can to help make sure that you are. So, let's see these comments. So because I care, I was in pain and went to the ER because my BP wasn't high. They thought I was faking. Didn't leave until they diagnosed me. I had a ruptured ovarian cyst. A normal BP is high for me. You know, amazing. You know, I'm so glad you're okay, and I'm so glad that you advocated for yourself. You know your body. You know that something was wrong, and it can save your life. You know, so glad you're here to share that with us. And yeah, I can't see it. Anisha Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We have to be an active participate. We have to be an on our plan of care. This is so good. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. Thank you. We do. That's what it's all about, you know. I mean, and the only thing I kept thinking about when I was being dismissed and, you know, put off is just the fact that somebody would have left the doctor that day after they're given just a few months to live, went home, got their affairs in order, and just been done with it. You know, I mean, because people take that word and it breaks my heart. You know, I made one call to somebody and to ask them if they would take my kids in the event that I passed away. It was the hardest call I've ever had to make in my life. And after I got off that call, I vowed to do everything in my power to not have that happen. And I'm so glad that I did.
I'm
anyway.
glad you did too, because we got to meet. Because, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and I've been through some traumas, we all been through some stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the hardest thing for me was to be on a call, on a Zoom. We had a family, everybody was on the family Zoom, and to tell my three adult children that I had cancer. I didn't really, it was not a concern for me that I had it. Yeah, I know I had it, and I know I have to fight it. But to tell my babies that ripped me to shreds. So I had to do all my blubbering, snotting, ugly cry, and then, you know, put drops in my eyes. And then we had a family meeting, and I shared it with them.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was expecting like them to fall apart. I just didn't know what to expect. Now my daughter, it hit her totally different. She just was in a shock.
Mm-hmm.
However, even though she knew and was, you know, one of my persons that went to the doctor with me, but she handled it different. But both of my sons, they were like, okay, Mom, this is a part of your story. You're going to be on stages talking about it. And you're going to write, this will be more for you to write in your book.
This is your son?
Both of them. And I was
wow.
Like, what call are we on? Like, I'm telling you for the first time.
Right.
And that's what they said. And they said, we know you got it. So when I told like my godchildren, my goddaughter will cry at the drop of a hat. She goes, you know what? I don't know what it is, but I'm not crying because I know that you're going to beat this. So I had such strong supporters, and I didn't let anybody else come in my circle.
Yeah.
I shut everybody else out because I didn't have the bandwidth. So they were my circle.
That's incredible. Wow. How old were your kids at the time?
You just want me to tell all my business, right? Okay, fine.
Okay, I got you.
So my son had my youngest was he's 35 now, so I guess that's meaning 33. My daughter 37, 36, and then 40. Yeah, I know. I look good. I'm 60.
You do look good. I thought you were 40. You look amazing.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So, who do I speak to if I don't feel like I'm being heard by my doctor?
Well,
so
it depends on where you are in your journey. If you're already a patient, if you have a nurse navigator, you can go to the social worker. And you can also look for groups there at the hospital for cervical cancer. They have cancer groups, etc., and let them know that.
Yeah.
Put it in writing.
Yeah, absolutely. I had, in the first facility that I had my treatment in, I had an amazing nurse navigator, and yeah, I loved her. She did everything for me. I miss that woman. But anytime I felt uneasy about something or I had questions about something, that you only have a very limited time with your doctor sometimes. And, sometimes you don't get everything addressed.
Right.
So your nurse navigator is a really good place to start. And, if you're at a point in your treatment where you're, making treatment decisions or trying to figure out what's next. And like I said, like I did, I wasn't being heard by my doctor. So I found another doctor. So yeah, it definitely depends on where you are in treatment, but start with your nurse navigator for sure.
What is a nurse navigator? A nurse navigator is a coordinator.
Mm.
So if you have questions about, not everybody has funds to get back and forth to treatment.
For sure.
Or, to say, looking for, having the nutritionist, the registered dietitian. Yes, your doctors put in the referrals and stuff a lot of times, but sometimes they'll speak to you and say, okay, well, this is how you do it, or do you have transportation? They will navigate this, the healthcare system for you, because you can't walk from one office to the other when you've had radiation, because you can barely make it to your appointment.
Right.
So that helps. Also, use your portal. A lot of times we're not told we have a portal, and what a portal is, it holds your documents. You can look and see what your lab work, what the reports of that CAT scan was, or your x-ray. You can actually go log in, ask your doc, ask your nurse navigator. But if they have a nurse practitioner, ask them as well, and they can give you the website, and then you put in your password, your passcodes. And your like my doctors, like I said, when I was going through my treatment, it was just not the norm from what I'm hearing from most people. But I could also email. Like right now, I can just shoot an email because I was having a hard time. She had switched, their system wasn't working very well, and they were switching over. So when I did let my fingers do the walking, then my doctor emailed, oh my goodness, yes, that's right, do such and such and such. And it could be at 3:00 in the morning. You can send the email, and when they go to work, then they can, have that information, unless of course it's an emergency. So use all of the tools that you're now learning about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh gosh. So what is the most important part of self-advocacy?
The most important part is knowing you. The most important part is, in my opinion, is to have those conversations with yourself. Be honest with you. You don't have to be honest with your husband. You don't have to be honest with your kids, but you do need to be honest with yourself first, and say, what decisions do I want to make for myself? How far am I going to go? And then look at who's your circle, your tight circle, not our friends, but who are the real people that are there for you in the clutch, and let them know. Reach out and say, I need help. If you're like me, like, look, I'm single. I got to do stuff on my own. I'm a Black woman, ER nurse, was my specialty, all of that stuff. I don't need you. I had to really take myself down several pegs and say, hey, I need help. And then be willing to reach out. So the first step for your advocacy is being honest with yourself, utilizing your circle, getting a notepad to write things down, or use your notes. And, droid people do what droid people do. But those of us with an iPhone, use your notes and jot those things down, and then look on the websites for different organizations. I couldn't find any. It was very hard. after the fact. In fact, it was my girlfriend who has had breast cancer. She's the one who found Share.
Oh,
Right.
really?
Because when I shared, you like, you guys usually help women with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no, you're coming to New York City to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm going with you, because she's triple negative breast
Okay.
cancer. And she's in clinical trials. So I went there, and I'm bold. Look, y'all, I said, so where are the vaginas? And they laughed at me, and I think it was not Morgan, but someone was there, and she says, do you know that we now have a cervical cancer department? I was like, no, because you don't advertise it. And that's how this all came about.
Yeah.
So looking up, there's Share that has it, and there's also Survivor, if I can say, CERVIVOR.org.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look for those organizations. And I definitely couldn't find people that look like me. And those that I found that were in, you know, had late stage like me, I might as well go on and put a gun to my head. They were like, oh my goodness, that's it, you're dead. I was like,
I know.
so reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was diagnosed almost 7 years ago, and I couldn't really find. My thing was I needed to find somebody who had the same cancer
Right.
as me, the same stage, and it was really hard. I don't know if Survivor was around when I was looking. I'm not sure,
They were
but
14 years ago, I think
oh
they
wow.
started.
Amazing. Yeah. So I don't know why I didn't find them then. And maybe I did. Maybe I did but I didn't. I wanted to find a person that had stage 4
Right.
cervical cancer specifically. And I searched high and low. I went into GoFundMe's. I went Facebook, news articles, like everything. I just needed to find somebody. And I knew that once I found one person, that's all I needed. And I found one woman. I found two. Ended up finding two, and we kind of picked each other's brains. We had the same sort of stories and the same diagnosis, and that was all I needed. It just kind of propelled me to the next level. I was like, okay, one person did it, I can do it too. And just so grateful to find them.
Yeah, and that's so important because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, most of the people I met, they were stage 1, stage 2.
Yeah.
And that was, again, because one of my besties who has stage 4 breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, she says, oh, you're coming with me, because I do whatever she says. She's like, you're coming with me, or you're signing up for this photo shoot. And I was like, oh, isn't it only for breast cancer? She says, no, it's for different women. I mean, for women who have all types of cancers. I was like, okay. And that's what I did. And I was able to meet the founder's sister who survived cervical cancer. Now, granted, she had a different stage, a earlier stage, so she didn't have to go through the chemo and stuff. But it didn't matter because I found somebody and she looked like me. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I opened my mouth. My neighbor says, we haven't seen you. You're not, I was riding my bike, but I had to stop because I couldn't take the pain. And I said to her, I said, well, I'm just letting you know, because they would look out for me because I'm single.
Right.
And I said, I have cervical, I've been diagnosed. She says, girl, you're going to be fine. It came back twice. She said, so you're going to have their surgery the first time. And I was like, what? And that was in 1990 something. So she says, I had the same that you did. And she had late stage as well.
Yeah.
And then it came back. And she says, you are going to be fine. And I never knew. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Everyone doesn't want to share their story, and that's okay.
Right.
But those of us who do, if someone asks and it's an intimate, it's so important to know, like, to see someone else. It's, to me, at first, yes, it's important that I see the Black and brown community because they don't talk about it, and we have to talk about it because I know we have like 10 minutes so we can talk about the HPV vaccine and stuff. But it's also important to find people, and just like breasties and breast cancer, I need cervical cancer to be just as much of a voice, because when you have that over your chest for your boobs, and you have your hand over your pelvis because we're joined together. So
Mm.
I'm really just happy that breast cancer and cervical cancer, that we're joining.
Me too. Me too. Me too. I I was so grateful to end up being a part of Share. I mean, I just love that, this was kind of like cervical cancer was one of the final missing pieces, so they had breast cancer, represented all breast cancer and uterine cancer and ovarian cancer. So I was really excited to join Share a couple years ago and finally finish the piece of that puzzle with cervical cancer.
Right.
So,
I do want to say, though, it's really important that because I did go to school, I'm now certified cervical cancer advocate through Survivor.org. And it was
amazing.
3 days, in Seattle, Washington last month. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's important that we bring awareness that HPV, that it's spread because most people have it and they just don't know it
Just
because
don't
it
know.
can be dormant in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And that is usually HPV 16 and 18 that can convert to cancer. Like you can have it in your body and it never goes to cancer.
Right.
But it's so important that we have our young people, middle and up to 44,
Mm-hmm.
before you turn 45, definitely to have the HPV vaccine. Go to the doctors, tell them about it because it makes a huge, huge difference. And that's why they started now, the WHO World Health Organization are really pushing it. And this is so important.
Absolutely.
They didn't tell
I
us.
mean, what vaccine do you know that can prevent 6 different types of cancer? You were in the support group the other night, and this woman, 3 different types of cancer she got from HPV.
Right.
You know?
So it's so important. And it's not just for women. Men are affected with HPV as
Yeah,
well.
my son has received the HPV vaccine, and both of my
Right.
daughters.
Right.
Um,
And my family as well. So we, sharing that because people make it, it's a stigma. We don't want to talk about sex. Why not? It's all over the internet. Like, come on. Everybody see fan base? Anybody see Instagram? Anybody? I mean, come on. You see Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. We're
mm-hmm,
talking
mm-hmm.
about it. So need to protect ourselves. And just to let you know, like wearing a condom isn't enough
Nope.
because it's skin contact.
Right.
It's
Just can't contact.
right. So why not, before our children are even sexually active, go ahead and prevent it. And another thing, some people are going to be against vaccines, and that I respect that.
Sure.
That's your choice. That's not the discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
So don't put the comments in. I'm just saying. However, why not, protect our children early? Because if they get the series of the HPV, which has been around for a very long time, it's been around much longer, than the COVID vaccine and all of that. No, this has been around for years. So,
and
if
it's
you
most effective
them,
when
and
given young.
we're not effective. So if you start it younger, it protects them. That's a no-brainer to me. So if you're 18 and you get it, fine. If you're 25, you get it, good.
Right.
Any time is better than no time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is true. Gosh, it's like we've had such a rich conversation. I was looking through these questions and we've essentially answered most of them. So which is wonderful. I just don't know if it's going to cut us off at 8:30. So I feel like it's going. Does it cut off after an hour? I should probably know that, but I think they do. Yeah.
It probably will. So we have 5 minutes. So how can people find you?
So great question. So you can go to sharecancersupport.org and learn about our educational programs. We have a support group once a month for cervical cancer, but we also have one for young women's gyne cancer, and there's everyone in there from uterine, ovarian, cervical. We have a helpline, a text line. You can text with questions. You can call with any questions, and you can find more about our programs at sharecancersupport.org.
And don't you have your own page?
Don't I have my own page? Well, I have Serving Awareness.
Okay.
And so, yes, so please follow this page for all things cervical cancer.
Great. And you can find me, TrevisMichelle, here on Instagram at TrevisMichelle, and I speak about women empowerment, shifting our mindset. I'm going to speak about my journey sometimes. Uh, it's I am a woman empowerment speaker and I am a divorce strategist, but I incorporate cervical cancer because I'm all of those things. I'm not just one. And it's important that for me that I share my journey because there's so many people that need to know. And I am pretty much an open book. And if my being uncomfortable allows someone else to live, to be productive, to change the way they're doing things that wasn't working anyway, then I'm going to do that. So, like I said, on my Instagram at TrevisMichelle, I'm also in LinkedIn, working on TikTok, TrevisMichelle 1. I'm working on it. I think I have 4 posts, but I'm working on it. I'm also over in Facebook, so you can find me in these streets, and definitely I go live. So follow me and connect if you want more information. And the two of us are going to be doing these lives more often. I'm so happy to be a part of Share and once a month in the support group, supporting also Aisha at Side by Side. And we have rich conversations in there. And you're going to get the answers that people aren't going to tell you. And we don't sugarcoat. Okay, I don't sugarcoat well.
You do not. And I love it. I try to throw in a little sugar, but it's a nice balance.
It is. It's a nice balance. And just be kind. Know that when people are going, the one thing I know that just popped in, see, brain fog had taken it away, now it's back. What to say to when someone tells you that, or you find out that they have cancer, cervical cancer, any cancer. One thing not to say, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it devalues what we're going through.
Right.
But how about asking, hey, you know what? If you need someone to talk to, only say this if you mean it. If you need someone to, just to listen, not talk and solve our problems, you can give me a call.
Yeah.
Or going and picking up the medication from the pharmacy. I had my family, I had to call them. They had never seen me like this. And I could not it took me 25 minutes to get to the door to get the meds that they went to the store to get. And they left it in the front for me because I was so weak. So going to buy some food, people that I didn't even know, I'm also over on Clubhouse, they said, look, what's your address? They were sending me like their Instacart.
Right.
That is huge.
And you know what that is? That's advocating for yourself, delegating help when you need it the most, which is another really important part of self-advocacy. It's hard, especially as a mom and a woman sometimes, to ask for help, but it's a wonderful way to advocate for yourself and get what you need. So
I'm TrevisMichelle. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I have to end the way I do. Too much for some, not for others, but guess what? I'm always just right for me.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone for joining us tonight and submitting questions. Make sure to check out our upcoming educational programs and support groups and follow us on social media. This concludes our cervical chat. Thank you. Bye.